How to obtain blessings from the odd. Numbers chapter 6 verse 22 to the end. And the odd spoke to Moses these sayings. And he said, Moses, you shall speak to Aaron and to command him and his sons, and their children and their descendants to observe all these sayings. And also all the people who wish to be wise, that they should choose to observe them. And you shall bless them. Therefore all the children of Israel who wishes to be wise, they should hearken to all of these sayings, that the odd am saying unto them, then shall the odd shall bless them, and keep them, in all of these ways. Then the odd shall make his face to shine upon them. And then shall be gracious unto them. Then the odd shall lift up his countenance upon them, and shall give them peace. And Moses thou shalt command them to revere Elu, and that they should put my name upon their children them. And furthermore shall bless all their descendants whom shall obey his commandments. And they shall be called the children of Israel. And will bless them all. Conclusion. My friends, how does one put the name of whom is the odd upon their children them, and how does one honor and reverence the odd of heaven whose name is known as Elu? So that they and their children and descendants becomes the children of Israel? Well, in Islam, the Muslims have adopted this fundamental principles of naming their children after the name of Allah. And furthermore this practice is still carried on today. But this right was first given to the Hebrews during the time of Moses and Aaron. And even further back in Genesis, when our ancestors carried on the practice of naming their children after the name of whom is the odd one of all the heavens and the earth. But in the Jewish customs the Jews have blatantly disregarded Elu's commandments. And they have instead disobeyed Elu by naming their children after themselves. And by choosing to honor God and Jesus by naming their loved ones after the name of themselves and their false gods. And by giving them theophorical names. And friends, this custom is still practiced wildly today. And many individuals are unknowingly naming their children after themselves and also after the name of God and demons and also fallen angels. And furthermore the Jews they have misinterpreted this scripture to mean something else, and to something totally different from what Elu the odd have commanded to Moses back then. That they should call their children them after the eous names of And this is how one put the name of Elu upon his people, and upon their children and upon their descendants. Friends, this commandments was first given to the descendants of the Hebrews nation, whom were the heritage and the benefactors of all of his blessings, and whom were called by Elu. And they became the chosen people of Elu. And they were commanded to put eous names upon their children in order to be blessed by Elu. And furthermore to be called his people. And be called after the name of whose name is called Holy and also Israel, and they were commanded to put the name of upon their children in order to honor Elu and attain the blessings of Elu. And furthermore this gave them the distinction of being called the children and the descendants of whose name is called Israel in order to receive favor and blessings and also divine providence and protection and also salvation. All because they would hearken to obey Elu and by putting the names of upon their children them. In order to receive blessings of Elu and also divine promises, all by us choosing to be named after whom is named Israel. Friends, the Muslims they have adopted the right idea. But they have misinterpreted the command given to Moses. Because they are focusing on the practice of putting the name of Allah upon their children them, which is indifferent to the commandments that was given to Moses. And furthermore this practice of naming their children after their God, Allah upon their children is in error. And furthermore by giving them names that are embedding with the names of the many deities is quite the opposite direction of the commandments that was commanded by Elu, and to Moses. But instead of us naming our children after the eous names of Odd, we are instead calling our children them by the names of false gods, and after the name of the many gods. And this practice, of us theophorically naming our children them after the names of our gods, which literally means that, we are bearing the name of a god. And this custom has been used for centuries across many major religions and cultures. And by us giving these theophorical names to our children and our descendants, we are disregarding E's commandments. Anyway, this is no doubt why Elu hasn't been blessing us. Friends, and this tradition has been practiced for centuries by the religious West, and also the people in the Middle East. And also by many religious society, whom have totally disregarded E's commandments of putting E's names upon their children. And furthermore by us failing to put E's names upon our children them according to the commandments of Elu. That we should name our children them after the E's names of Elu, whom is the odd one. And furthermore by doing so we are honoring E, and also E's divine commandments. Because Ilu, is the odd one whom is the odd of all the heavens and the earth. And furthermore E is whose name is called Holy E and the Almighty E. And furthermore E is whose name is above all other names. And whose name is called the Most High. Because E is the sovereign odd of all the heavens and the earth. And whose name we all should want to named after. Because E is the one whom have made us, and not we ourselves. And furthermore this one reason why we all should want to be named after E. Because He wants to bless every one of us. But we are to obey E's commandments, especially by putting E's name upon our children. Because only then would we be truly blessed. Thank you. The end. To be continued.